Hello and welcome to the Wellness Connection podcast. My name is Fiona Kane. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about intuition and around protecting your energy. So I wanted to start by talking about a certain kind of person that can affect your energy and how to manage yourself around them. When you talk about energy, when I talk about this, what I'm referring to is that way that somebody makes you feel. So when somebody walks in the room or when you spent some time with somebody and they walk away, it's how do you feel? Like what's the energy you feel from that sort of vibe energy you get from them? Have they sucked you dry? Have they given you energy? Is it fairly neutral? How does it feel? So there's a sort of person that I would call an energy sucking vampire. And that is a person where after you've been with them, you feel exhausted, you feel like they've totally depleted you, right? Now, they may, I'm not saying that they're a bad person. They may be a really good person, but they just do this terrible thing. They don't, in my experience, they're not really fully conscious that that's what they do. They've just always learned the way that they top up their energy is by getting it from other people. So that's what they do. So I am not saying these people are evil or bad. Some of them might be, but but I'm not saying that as a generalization at all. There are just people who don't know how to top up their own energy and they use other people for that purpose. And they often do it. It's not kind of a conscious thing, but it's just how they operate. So, not good, bad, indifferent, whatever, just be aware that there's people who that's the way they work and you need to protect your energy around them. It's particularly difficult if this person is your mother or your child or your partner or somebody who's close to you. So, these people, like I said, they don't really know how to manage their own energy and how to top up their own energy. So, they rely on other people to do it. And one of the clear and easy ways to do that is to actually that's just sort of plug into you, because what they do is they literally plug into you and suck your energy dry. I know it sounds weird, but that's exactly what they do. If you've been around these people, you know that's how it feels. And the way they get to plug into you, though, is they don't get to plug into you unless you allow them. And what we don't realize is that we allow them. So you don't have to let someone plug into your energy source and take your energy. So once you're aware that that's what these people are doing, not necessarily good, bad, whatever, just it's just what these people do, and not even consciously, I don't think, then you know how to manage that, right? And one of the really easy ways they can get access to your energy is by eliciting an emotional response from you, one way or the other. So, this is the person that says to you, "Oh, you look like you've put on a bit of weight since I saw you last." Or you've let yourself go. "Oh, you're aging a bit." "Oh, the house isn't looked after as well as it has been." Or just some other kind of a snide comment or you don't look after me very well, or "Oh, I haven't seen you in ages. I'm feeling," the kind of like victim thing where they somehow trying to make you feel guilty or trying to make you feel bad or trying whatever. But as ultimately what they're doing is they're eliciting an emotional response for you. So whatever that looks like. And if it's a family situation, it'll be whatever it is it's always been, because families all have their own little stories that they tell about each other. And family kind of knows the buttons to push for you, and they'll be different for different people. So it depends on what your family dynamics are. So it might be something that sort of has been going on forever since your childhood, and it's just some button that they push and they know how to elicit that emotional response, right? About your career, about your looks, about your partner, about your parenting, about whatever it is, right? The topic's irrelevant. What is relevant is that once they get an emotional response from you, they plug into you, right? So with people like this, it's really, really good to learn how to not have an emotional response to the things they're saying, which can be really tough because these are often, like I said, people who are close to us. If it's not someone who's close to you, if it's like a work colleague or someone like that, it's easier. But in both cases, you've got to understand it's the same thing, that you're not to let them elicit emotional responses in you. So with these people, what you have to do is when they're doing this, you have to actually just be one of two things. Either If you can choose not to be around this person or choose not to be with them very often, that might be a good choice for you. I'm not trying to separate families or things like that. I think that in most cases you can work things out and families can be together. So I'm not saying that at all. But in general, if this is someone that doesn't need to be in your life, then maybe spend less time with them or don't spend time with them, especially if it's kind of just an acquaintance or something like that. Who needs an acquaintance like that? We've got enough enough challenging people, often in our families or workplaces or whatever, without actually having friends or acquaintances as well who are like this. So if it's someone that you don't need to be around, maybe don't be around them or spend less time with them. But if it's someone that you choose to be around or you need to be around for whatever reason, then what you need to learn how to do is just be very matter of fact with them. So know what they're going to do and recognize it for what it is. So instead of kind of being really activated about what they've just said about your parenting or your looks or whatever it is, in your mind you're saying, okay, this person's they're trying to get my energy now. This is how they're trying to do it. I'm not going to let that happen. So what you do is you stay matter of fact and on topic of whatever is the reason you're interacting with this person in the first place. So if it's a work colleague, it's a discussion about the work stuff, or you just say, okay, I've got to get on with my day. See you later. So it might just be moving on, or it might just be doing the matter of fact stuff. Often, if it's family or someone like that, and someone that you need to be talking to, a good way is even just a distraction thing where you might talk about, oh, look at the weather today, or do you think it's going to rain, or well, maybe we need to bring the washing in, whatever, but just distracting the person. So sometimes it might be distracting, or it's moving on the conversation, or it's moving on from the conversation and finishing the conversation. But just sort of, politely and matter of factly, just moving on with things. When you don't engage, they can't plug into you and take your energy. And what you will find is at first they'll be very confused, but ultimately with these people, when you stop giving them your energy, first they're confused and they might push a bit harder to try and get that. So just note that that can happen first. Eventually, though, these people will move on and find someone else to get it from if they can't get it from you. And unfortunately, that's not your problem. Your issue is just protecting your own energy. So what they won't keep trying to get your energy if you don't allow them to, or they might, but not as often because they just know that it doesn't work with you. When people learn that their tactics don't work with you, they often move on because if it's hard work, it's not worth it for them. They'll move on to somebody who will happily give them their energy. So with people like that, have an awareness of don't spend time around them if and when you don't need to, if you don't want to, depending on who they are. When you are with them, understand that they will want to get that reaction from you and they're trying to get some sort of emotional response from you because that is where and how they plug into your energy. So be aware of that. Also, being aware these people are often people who need to tell these big stories of dramas and sort of stories about other people and kind of spend time with you creating these big dramas to talk about why they're a victim and why everyone's out to get them or whatever. They're often that kind of person as well. And again, if you get caught up in all those stories with them and all those dramas with them, that can be really exhausting. So it's good not to buy into that. So it doesn't mean you can't be polite, you can't listen to what someone says. But again, there's ways that you can kind of wind those conversations up fairly quickly. Be polite, hear the person, oh, that's no good. Oh, and then move on to the next thing. Did you hear about the news today or whatever it is? But just some way of closing that conversation. Again, they will stop trying to have conversations with you when they know that you're not going to have those. They'll find someone else who's willing to tell stories about people who play those games or play the victim games and stuff. So the less you interact with that way and the less that you buy into the stuff that they're doing, the more that they'll be attracted to go and do that with other people and they won't be doing it with you so much. But initially they might push back and they might make things a bit harder and give you a bit of a harder time, but eventually they'll move on. And when I talk about eliciting emotional responses, it could be shame. Like I said, it could be they really try and shame you. Oh, well, then you're not a very good daughter, or you're not a very good employee, or you're not a very good whatever it is, but they try and shame you. When you understand that that's their currency, that's how they get energy, you don't take it as personally or try not to take it personally at all. It's actually not even though sometimes things are about you, they're not really about you at all. And when you can identify that sometimes things you might be the subject, but you're not really, it's just a person's way of accessing your energy and it's got nothing to do with you personally. Sometimes when you understand that, you can cope with it a lot better because you can kind of go in your mind, oh, this isn't about me. And if I buy into this, if I react to this, I'm going to be exhausted for the rest of the day. And this person does not deserve my energy. And when you can start to sort of have that conversation with yourself, sort of just quietly in your mind, that's what you're saying to yourself in these situations, you will find you'll start to manage these situations better. I'll be back in a moment. I'm back. And so, what I was talking about there is this energy sucking vampires and how to manage them. Like I said, they're not necessarily good, bad, whatever. They might be, might not be, I don't know. But they certainly don't know how to get their own energy and choose to basically get it from other people. And if you engage, that's how they get it from you. So, there's certainly ways that you can be polite. You can have a relationship with these people, and but you can also just not buy into the stories, not buy into the dramas, and certainly don't let them activate you emotionally. It's not worth it. You sort of think about it and think, okay, yep, no, I know what this is about. This is nothing to do with me. I am not going to get involved. And you just choose polite ways to move the things along. So, in regards to that sort of person, that's how I would manage that situation. Now, there's something else I wanted to talk about as well today, and it's about intuition. And what I'm seeing a lot of, and just to kind of actually clarify, like a definition of intuition, is that ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning. It doesn't mean conscious reasoning is not there, because often these things become intuition because you learn them over time, and you learn them over time because of conscious reasoning. So it's something that you've learned in the past and something that you know, and that kind of gets embedded in your intuition. And then years later, when a situation comes up, your intuition tells you something's not safe or not right. So don't ever think that intuition is just an emotional thing. What I find now is that uh, there's a lot of gaslighting going on in regards to intuition, where people are telling you that what you see and what you hear is not real and not true, and don't believe your lying eyes and don't believe your intuition. And it comes up in a lot of different situations. So it comes up around food, as I've talked about before, where I talk about people being connected to their body and knowing they've eaten enough, they've had enough, and being told, oh, no, you should eat more because you haven't eaten enough, or someone's starving in China, or whatever it is. So sometimes people tell you to stop listening to your body and stop listening to your intuition and to ignore that. People do it in other ways as well, kind of in social ways and things. And women weren't believed for a long, long time. People didn't believe women about stuff, and we weren't taken seriously. And women spoke up, and they were put in mental institutions and things like that, right? Which is awful. And so we got to a point where we sort of said, okay, listen to women, and women actually have a really good intuition. And you don't have to. And the believe all women thing, no, you don't believe all anybody. But yes, women can have a say, and you listen to women just as you would listen to men. Understand that women actually do have a pretty good intuition, and I think it's because we're generally the ones who become mothers, and mothers have to have a really good intuition about who's around my baby, what's going on here. So women do usually have a really good intuition. And what I'm finding now is, and for a long time, there was training. There's even programs and things you can do in regards to self defense that are about your intuition, that are saying, listen to your intuition. Your intuition's always right, because it usually is, right? What I'm finding now, and I don't want to get too much into sort of too much politics or anything like that, so I'm not really going to go fully there, but is there's some ideologies and some politics and some games that people are playing in the world at the moment that are asking you not to listen to intuition, that are asking you to, we kind of think, oh, that doesn't seem right. Oh, yes, but it is right, because it's all about compassion and inclusion and we're wonderful people. No, it's not always true. Just because people word things in that language, it does not mean it's true. So I would just advise you to keep listening to your intuition. women have a good sense of intuition. I'm not saying men don't have it as well. Of course, all human beings have a different type of intuition. So, absolutely. But in particular, at the moment, I find, well, actually all people, but women in particular are being really kind of baited at the moment where we're being told that our intuition, our feeling for what's safe and for what's right and for what's right for children and for what's right for us and for what's right for our safety, we're being told that that's not true. And listening to our intuition makes us bigots or mean people or horrible people, that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. I probably will be starting another podcast soon, just a different name, different podcast where I can go into this stuff in more detail, and that will be on probably all the same platforms, but particularly on Rumble, where it's a free speech platform where I could probably say more. I just would just have a reminder to women and people in general that we have intuition for a reason. And yes, intuition, it might. So if you think about sort of how we came from, once upon a time we lived in a tribe. And when you lived in a tribe, if someone different to you came to your tribe, they would make you nervous. Your intuition would tell you to be concerned because that person is probably there to take over your tribe, to kill you, whatever. That's how it was, right? So some levels of not feeling safe around someone who's different, some of that actually comes from that sort of inbuilt thing of when it was important for saving your life. Now, of course, we live in much more integrated world now where we do live with all different kinds of people and it's multicultural and all different things, right? So yes, there's a lot more different people living together now, and now society is a lot more blended with all of that. However, there is still often that people do have a fear of something that's different to them. And generally, and that doesn't make someone a bad person for having that as their first instinct. Having that as a first instinct is just comes from our background, from thousands of years of being invaded, right, where we have that intuition, right? Um, so having that as an automatic sort of response, but then having a moment to sort of think about things and sort of clarify is okay. It's fine. It doesn't make someone an evil person. Um, being outright bigoted and mean towards people because of their race, religion, whatever, is a whole other story. But having just a little bit of I'm not sure about this other person because I'm not familiar is fine. You're not familiar. You're not familiar. And then you can assess things on a case by case basis about what's safe for you and what's not. And of course, it can be lots of people who are just like you can be very unsafe as well. So it's not about other at all, but it's just that we have intuition for a reason. It comes for a reason, and uh, sometimes you need to maybe reassess it. But generally speaking, telling people just outright to override their intuition and how they feel, or if they feel safe about things, is not safe. And if there's anyone trying to convince you, including those people I was talking about before, those energy sucking vampires who are constantly trying to do this, people trying to tell you to not listen to your intuition, to not feel safe, to do things that make you feel unsafe or make you feel like you're doing what's sort of morally wrong for you or just what feels wrong for you, pay attention to that. And my encouragement would be to stick up for what feels right for you. If you have to have some difficult conversations or some clarifying conversations, look, occasionally we realize that, we had a fear about something that was unfounded, that kind of thing. So it is okay. Sometimes we grow and learn and we find out that and sometimes our fears might be attached to something that felt very real for us but isn't very real. So I'm not saying there's never a situation where these things can't be challenged or can't be discussed. But in general, we have our intuition for a reason. And anyone who's outright trying to tell you not to listen to your intuition, I would be very suspicious of their motives. Intuition's there for a reason. It's very protective. And there's a lot of situations that these people who teach about self-defense and stuff like that, there's so many situations where women have they have the what's his name? The sort of that serial killer guy, Ted Bundy, right? People like that. He used to kind of put his arm in a sling and pretend he was sort of disabled and needed help. I don't know, loading his groceries into his car or something. And women would feel sorry for him and come over and help him. And next thing you know, they're in the car, right? And they're goners. That's a really common thing that men do to get women to override their intuition. So the intuition is, oh, I feel really nervous around this person, yet they kind of feel ashamed because I think, oh, I really should help this person because they've got an injury, they're on crutches, they've got their arms in a sling, or they're looking for their puppy, whatever it is, and we override our intuition to help them, and then suffer for that, right? So it's a really common thing that women do, that women are vulnerable to, and we've for the last few years, there's been active programs to teach women to listen to your intuition, and if it means that you might have to come across as rude, then then that's how it is. But that might save your life. So coming across as rude because you're listening to your intuition, and then maybe you can reassess things, whatever, down the track. It's fine, but all I would say is keep listening to your intuition. And anyone who's trying to convince you not to listen to that, I'd be very suspicious of their motives, and really have a think about these situations where you're being asked to not listen to your intuition. And, sometimes there might be validity in the situations, but often it's people trying to override your intuition, and it's not for good reasons. So, anyway, I will leave it there. So, please like, subscribe, and share. And you can comment if you're on Rumble or YouTube. Hope you have a great week. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.